about the consumption of crickets and bugs? Have their opinions been influenced by Western culture? Yeah, believe it or not, crickets are a really common food and delicacies in countries like Mexico and Brazil and Cambodia, and Asian countries like Thailand and China. And I think a lot of people in like Western countries like America or places like the UK and all that would find it mind-boggling that it's such a common food and it's put into meals and prepped like just average meat. And bugs in those countries are just treated like beef or steak or chicken. They're treated as normal food or normal meat. And they're being seasoned, they're being sold in markets, they're being put in meals. It's really amazing. And I think have you tried crickets before?
No, I haven't actually.
I've always wanted to though, like flavored crickets. Yeah, one of the cricket companies that we interviewed, Entomo, they slightly cook crickets and then package them as if they were flavored chips, and they do like sour cream and chives, honey soy, chicken. It's so good. You should try it sometime. Guess I'll have to. Yeah, and it was very important to me to use encouraging and exciting language when describing entomophagy. That's the consumption of bugs, right? Yeah, and I also ensured that there was going to be appetizing imagery of the bugs being cooked and plated, and made sure that the scenes when discussing entomophagy like looked tasty and appetizing. And it just shocks me how many people are being influenced by Western culture and judging a book by its cover on people who eat bugs. And since so many people are being influenced and believing that, oh, bugs are disgusting, bugs are creepy, I feel like it's very important to add all of these like appetizing scenes and talking about it in encouraging and exciting language, because I feel like they should try it once in a while. They shouldn't judge a book by its cover. Did you add any more information that showed the benefits in eating bugs? We had added graphs to show the difference in nutritional value from crickets, cows, and salmon, which are three major sources of protein that we look to in a standard meal. We added it to the documentary to really convince the audience that we're not just promoting the consumption of bugs just because it tastes good. We're promoting it because it has a higher nutritional value. Not to mention it's good for the environment. Yeah, and I haven't even gone to that point of the discussion yet. There's just so many pros in doing entomophagy. Though it is good for the environment, and we're not hurt, and in the process of farming crickets, it's not hurting livestock or animals that you'd normally be concerned about. There's many vegans that are quite concerned about the consumption of bugs. Yeah, wasn't there a study about that? Could you tell us about that? Yeah, so there was a study in, I think, 2019 from the University of Eastern Finland. It discussed how vegetarians and vegans feel about entomophagy. Vegetarians had showed no sympathy towards knowing that they might eat bugs in the future. However, vegans showed no interest whatsoever in consuming bugs, and apparently still saw it as a way of torturing animals, as if it's the same as cows being killed or sheep being killed, even if it was better for the environment and for them. Yeah, and that may be influenced by Western culture, I believe. Your documentary represents how the adaptation of farming and creating food has changed how society functions. Will the unique protein alternatives impact society, and if so, how? Yeah, I think it will for sure change how society functions, because it's such a huge change compared to average farming. Sustainable farming is so different that it will have to impact society. because people may lose jobs in livestock because livestock may not be as common in the future. You'll probably see more people or like more stores selling bugs in the future, like cooked crickets and bugs and all that. Fungi protein may be more common and being sold in stores. And a huge thing is that people's diets might change. The normal things, the quote unquote normal things you may be eating now would probably be way different to what you may be eating in maybe 20 years from now. That's a huge thing that might change. You included thought-provoking interviews with professionals in protein alternatives and neurology. Did you intentionally add these to influence the audience into trusting the information being shared? Do you find neurology and the future of alternative foods somewhat related? I think including insight from experts can help build credibility and also bring useful and interesting insight to your interviews. The majority of the people that we had interviewed for the documentary were experts in studies similar to neuroscience and were also CEOs of alternative meat companies like Beyond Meat and Impossible Foods. I do believe the two are related in some way. The people's opinion and how we see future food alternatives play a big part in its success. That's why it's so important that we help promote alternative foods and shed it in a good light. Would you say that's similar to how Western culture influences people's opinions on entomophagy? Yeah, that's pretty much the main reason why bug consumption isn't common worldwide at this point. And that shows like evidence towards how neuroscience and the future of food are so closely related, because the success on future food is entirely dependent on people's opinions of it and if they have the confidence to try it out. In your interviews with experts, there are often food products within the frame. Is it to promote certain products or ideas? Yeah, if the setting of the interview wasn't in a food-related area, for example, some of the settings we had used were grocery stores, cafes, production sites, or farms, we would place, as you said, we would place familiar foods in the frame behind the people being interviewed. We would make sure to choose popular products. For example, Coca-Cola, Pepsi, Cheetos, Doritos, Gatorade, all the popular brands that if you were to like see it or hear it, you'll be like, yeah, I know what that is. Why did you choose popular brands? Since the documentary would discuss unfamiliar foods that are considered disgusting and inedible, placing everyday food products or popular brands that people can recognize in the frame is vital, as it gives the audience a sense of comfort. And I feel like for a lot of people, just thinking about the future and thinking about, oh, synthetic meat, that's disgusting. Like, I wouldn't try that. I wouldn't eat crickets. I wouldn't eat bugs. I wouldn't eat fungi protein. It's a really sensitive topic at the moment, I feel like, and by placing products that we're so used to eating and we're comfortable hearing, it's pretty much necessary to add, as it, it's important. It gives them comfort. And like, yes, the future may introduce foreign meats and protein alternatives, but your favorite food products will most likely stay for a long time. I find it amazing that while trying to educate people and educate the audience on what might happen in the future of food, you're still attempting to reassure them. This one's my last question for you for this evening.
It's been an honor.
You had narrated this documentary and intentionally chose not to be a host. What led you to do this? Would you say that narrating a documentary instead of being filmed allows the audience to focus on the evidence and arguments being shared? Oh, that one's a tough one. Usually when hosting and explaining evidence or stats, I think it doesn't really register without visual aids. So that's why usually when people are hosting in documentaries, you see them like talking, and then it cuts off to a bunch of stats and graphs and visual aids. I believe that narrating a documentary instead of hosting it allows the audience to pay attention to your voice while seeing examples of what you're discussing about instead of having to cut off, you know? Yeah. Instead of seeing the host just standing in front of the environment or whatever's behind them in the frame, you instead get the opportunity to see what's happening, which is evident in this documentary. Narrating this documentary also allowed me to record my lines remotely and not have to be required to constantly travel and go where we were filming at the time. Hosting is a great opportunity to connect with the audience, though, I believe, as you can take them on a journey and journey to centralize a broader narrative. And when they're talking about stuff, you can see the emotion on their face. Instead, with narration, you have to really make your voice, I guess, more enthusiastic. You have to show the emotion in your voice because you're not able to show it on your face, you know? But with hosting, it can distract the audience from the main ideas you're trying to present. On the other hand, when narrating, you do have the opportunity to control the script, but you may overwhelm the audience with too many facts and figures. So there's really like pros and cons with both narrating, hosting documentaries. But in the end of the day, I am glad I decided to narrate it. Yeah, and I'm glad you did as well, because you did an outstanding job. Thank you so much. I'll pay you later. Will do. Thanks for coming in today.
Thanks for having me.
I would like to tell the listeners at home about Dan Pashman's amazing cookbook, Anything's Possible. Great name, by the way.
Oh, you give me too much praise.
And his amazing podcast that has won 4 awards, by the way. Bespokeful. It's amazing, and it has great information about food. And make sure to check out next week's episode that's going to be posted in April 14th with our interview with Taylor Swift.